This is how much cutlery a small restaurant uses in just 1 hour. Imagine how much cutlery a medium or even large restaurant would use in an entire day. Now, imagine you have to go through each and every single one of those pieces and inspect them to make sure they're good for customers, and then on top of that, sort them out. Good morning, Virginia Tech, and most welcome guests. My name is Jake, this is Candy, and we are Team Kitau from Vancouver, Canada. When I was a child, I remember being very excited to eat my oatmeal one morning, and when I went to take the first bite, I was traumatized. There was a dried on piece of last night's dinner still on that fork, and since then, I always look at every piece of cutlery I ever use. We've had the privilege of interviewing over 100 people in the food service industry, and we found out that this is just as big of a problem for them. The majority of consumers are reporting that this is a huge problem at restaurants they go to. And restaurants are spending an enormous amount of time trying to deal with this and not getting the results. And time is money. If you multiply this by the minimum wage, you realize just how much the average restaurant is spending on this every single year. And in Canada, where we're from, these are all in Canadian dollars, by the way. In Canada, where we're from, the minimum wage is going up very steeply in the next couple of years. We looked at products that are out there in the market, and we talked to the customers who have used those products, and we found out that none of them are really doing it for them. Most of them prefer to just go with the manual polishing method, which has the problems we showed earlier. It's very inconsistent. No solutions out there are addressing every single thing a restaurant needs in a viable solution. So we came up with PolySort, the world's first integrated polishing and sorting cutlery machine. I'll show you a little video about what this looks like in the restaurant.
Can we turn on the volume too? Thank you.
In a single day. And the polishing and sorting machine behind every high-end restaurant is a big operation that covers many tasks completed mostly behind the scenes. High-end restaurants can spend between 3 to 5 hours polishing and sorting cutlery in a single day. We have designed a polishing and sorting machine that allows restaurant staff to minimize the time spent on these tasks. With our product, the user simply takes the cutlery basket from the dishwasher and slides it into our device. Behind every
All right, so as you can see here, the server takes the cutlery tray that's just been washed from the dishwasher, and the same standard trays are used in every restaurant everywhere. And they bring it and they can slide it right into the machine, and the result is a beautiful sparkling tray of cutlery that is nicely sorted and easy for servers to come by and just pick up the bundle and bring it where they need to go. PolySort addresses everything the restaurant needs in a viable solution and more. Just how many restaurants can PolySort help? Well, there are over 300,000 restaurants in Canada and the US alone that fit within our target market of cutlery usage and standards. And just how excited are they? Well, we've already gotten 2 letters of intent from major chains in Canada just to rent the first prototype from us. This is going to be extremely valuable for us as we are going to get much needed engineering feedback, but more importantly, we're going to get to show these chain restaurants the value that our device can deliver to them. And this is very important for chain restaurants because they should basically test everything they buy for 6 months in just one location before they decide to roll it out. So we're getting the device into their location well in advance of our product launch so that we have eager buyers ready by the time we're launching. I'm going to pass it over to Kenny now, who's going to talk a little bit more about how we're going to get this to the restaurants.
Thank you, Jake. So in terms of the business model, Kitau will sit between the manufacturer and the supplier as a product development firm. This is very important because not only do we want to focus on creating the next version of Polysort, but Kitau has a mission to expand into the kitchen automation space, Kitau standing for kitchen automation, and solve other problems that our customers are also dealing with. Now, in terms of managing these relationships, I have connections in China with manufacturers, and we hope to confirm these partnerships within the upcoming months. Additionally, we have been in talks with Russell Henricks, which is actually recently became the largest Canadian restaurant supplier. They're super excited about our product, and they want to carry it out as soon as we demonstrate customer demand, which we will with our initial sales. In terms of pricing, we will be pricing Polysort, the device, at the lower cost at $12,000 per unit and making a recurring revenue on the chemical sales at $5,000 each year on each device that we sell. So to give you some reference, some of the restaurants we've spoken to have spent about, ranging from kitchen equipment, ranging from $16,000 on an ice maker to $25,000 on a glass washer to up to $55,000 on a new dishwasher. So we certainly sit on the lower ends of that. Now you might wonder, so how big is the market? Let's say that 300,000 full-service restaurants in Canada and US bought just one unit of Polysort. That gives us a market of $3.6 billion in US and Canada alone. And we also have plans to expand into hotels, which we actually have tapped into the market and tested our prototype with. So this will increase our market significantly. And a note here is that these are very conservative estimates because these figures don't take into account that we're also making sales from chemicals or which actually makes up a big chunk of our sales, or take into consideration that restaurants or hotels with bigger operation might actually want to buy more than one device. So we think the market potential for Polysort is a lot bigger. Now, here's what we're going to do in the next year. We're currently incorporating Kitau. We have 2 milestones within the next year. By February of 2019, we want to be trialing our product with our beachhead customer, Earl's and Old Spaghetti Factory. And we also have another important goal, which is to launch our product at the National Restaurant Association, which is one of the biggest trade shows of its kind in the world, in Chicago next year. Now taking you to the financial projections. In year 1, Kitau will have a gross margin of about 40%, but with the recurring revenue, this will increase to just over 50% by year 4. By partnering with influential supplier like Russell Henricks to expand our sales, we actually break even by 2022 in Q1 in less than 4 years. And after that, our revenues will increase significantly as well. So why the Canadian team? Apart from the great success we've had at competitions and local seating events, we also have a strong passion to expand Kitau, and we have the core competencies to, well, from business to a good mix of engineering disciplines to bring this product to market. Not to say, we also have an incredible list of board advisors ranging from machinists to engineers to business consulting professionals, as well as hospitality industry experts. An important reason why we're here today is that we wish to gain advice and feedback from any of you, judges and audience members, about what we're working on. We ask that if you have any advice for us, that you come speak to with us later. We'd love to hear about it. And of course, we're here to ask for the $30,000 to help accelerate in our R&D process, progress, as well as certify our product and bring it up to food safe standard. Not only do we have restaurants, like local restaurants and major Canadian chains who are waiting to trial products, we also have VC firms like Agentis Capital who have reached out to us and expressed interest in Kitau. We know what our next steps are, but we need your help to deliver this product to our customers. This need is currently not being met in the market, and we don't want restaurant owners or diners like you to miss out on this opportunity to increase the sanitation conditions as well as the dining experience in the restaurant. So we're Team Canada, Kitau. We're Kitau from Team Canada. By investing in us, not only can we provide you with a return on investment of 5.41 in the next 6 years, but we can also ensure that you never have to deal with dirty cutlery again. Thank you.
Great job, guys. Unique idea. Caught everyone's attention, I'm pretty sure. Talk a little bit more about just on the product itself and kind of what it does. I'm curious, it seems like it solves two problems, one in cleaning quality and consistency, and one in kind of the sorting process. How does it create a more consistent clean, and kind of how would a customer value each of these things?
Sure. So the consistency mainly comes from the fact that depending on the server, whether they're inexperienced or maybe they're tired and it's a long task, the standards can start to drop. So basically by putting this into a device and using chemicals that we've tested that work, we can ensure that the polishing standard is set every time consistently. And on top of that, the reason that it's so important to put polishing and sorting together is because when the cutlery is washed, the servers then have to go in there and handle the cutlery and sort it out. So in a lot of cases, they'll be making it dirty again, and they're touching where people are going to be eating. So this allows them to just pick up the cutlery all at once, take it where it needs to go. So it's not just about saving time, it keeps that standard. And we found out from our testing with restaurants, we basically brought a cardboard box in and we were watching them use the sorted cutlery in unique ways. They could just literally come by, grab a handful, and then as they're still walking, they don't have to stop and disrupt their workflow. So I think that's the main reason we're doing both polishing and sorting together.
And just a follow-on question on the cleanliness part. What makes it more clean versus like a regular dishwasher?
Right. So restaurant dishwashers, they basically get maybe a minute if you're lucky to work on the cutlery. So how it works is you have a dishwasher. I did dishwashing myself. So you basically have to spray everything down to make it look clean. And the dishwasher really only has enough time to blast some sanitizing chemicals onto it. Unlike our dishwashers at home, they get hours to work on the cutlery. This only gets about a minute. So Polysort sits off to the side and is putting out enough cutlery that's needed for the restaurants, but it has half an hour to work on the cutlery.
So can you talk a little bit about the IP and the chemicals, and it sounds like the chemical piece is going to be important. How are we sure that the chemicals are safe, and what do you have to protect your invention here?
Right. So currently we haven't, we are going to be applying for patents soon. Right now we're taking our initial prototype and we're putting it into a food safe version so that the restaurants can actually test it. And so we can't show that specific technology, but in terms of the chemicals, we've learned sort of from there's other restaurant equipment manufacturers, and they basically make all of their money from doing chemical sales, and they do that by protecting it through contracts with the restaurants. So you can only use the device if you use the chemical with the device. And so they enter in these contracts with the restaurants, and that's how we intend to protect it as well.
And were any of those restaurants that you showed that were initial, were those restaurants that are trying to go to less wait staff and self-service? Because it sounds like if you end up with less waiters and waitresses, they'll have less time to be able to do what they've been doing to this point. Is that a market strategy of yours?
So in some cases there will be, in most cases it'll be just hours reduced. In a lot of restaurants they have multiple people working on this, and they'll go after hours or they'll be before their shift. So the actual amount of servers during a shift won't change, so it won't change customer experience. But it'll reduce those hours, and so that's direct cost savings to the restaurant. But I think the main value prop is really eliminating those bad reviews to the restaurant, which are becoming incredibly important online these days.
Just to add to that, we believe that, but no, it doesn't exactly reduce the labor because they might not. Doesn't mean that there's less people working, but definitely because they don't have to focus on these kind of tasks, they can increase your customer experience. So now, if you're wondering where your servers are, they're probably in the back polishing or just not doing much. So this actually sends them out there, and it will increase your customer experience. And that's what restaurants really want to do. They want to increase that customer experience and your dining experience.
I have a lot of restaurant experience myself, and the phrase was, if you're leaning, you could be cleaning. And so you shouldn't be standing still if you're in a restaurant. That said, very interesting concept. Could you talk a little bit more about the actual unit and how you manufacture it, and when you get to scale, are you outsourcing that manufacture? Have you identified places that can build that at scale?
Yeah, so I think the main idea is to outsource that manufacturing to China. As Candy mentioned, she has connections to manufacturing in the town she was born. So that's mainly what we're looking at right now in terms of scaling up the product and bringing it to market.
Good job, guys. I have a question about space use in the kitchens and with the folks you've already talked to. The design of a kitchen is pretty lean in the sense of space, and you're asking to take up more space. Did you prototype this in the sense with a cardboard box? Did you go in and talk about workflow, and what kind of response did you get around that?
Awesome. Can you go to the cardboard slide?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we've gone through multiple cardboard iterations, as mentioned, and we basically wanted, because we're still learning the restaurant process itself, we learned a tremendous amount through observation. And in the first one we brought in, for example, it's just, I guess, yeah, it's on the left for you guys. So basically, originally we came in, they were supposed to dump the cutlery, kind of how I had done, right in the top of the device, and then on the bottom they pull out this sort of sorted tray. But we learned from that one that when it sits up on the table, it sits high, it takes up a bunch of space. It's actually kind of dangerous pouring the cutlery in. And so we then went to our next design, which was in the middle, which was still a taller device, but basically it had two separate trays in it, which were our own specialty trays. And when we had the servers try to use the thing, it took us a lot of time to just explain it. It was really awkward. We were uncomfortable even asking them to use the cardboard. So we had learned very quickly that it wasn't a good design. So from just watching how they were using it and the assumptions they'd kind of made, we came up with our next one, which is on the right. What we'd noticed from observing the servers in the restaurant is they actually will put stuff on top of a surface, and then they'll put other stuff on top of that stuff, and they keep piling it up, and then they'll work on top of all that. So we thought if we could have a short device, they could just, and a solid surface, they could still use that space on top of it. And in fact, in Earl's, where we were working with very closely, it actually helps them improve space efficiency, because they can work, what happens is they'll put the cutlery on the bottom, and then they'll put glasses on top of that, and then they can't work on both at the same time. But with the device, they could just slide the cutlery in right away, and the cutlery's gone to work, and then they could put the glasses on top, and then they could work on those separately. So both things are being done at the same time. And we had observed this when we actually brought in that cardboard prototype, that they were working on top of it. They were a bit worried they were going to break the box, but they still were putting stuff on top of it just because. So we had learned basically from that, and we also saw there's the standard tray that I was used to seeing at all the restaurants. So let's use what they already have, not bring in new trays, and just make it easy for them to use.
Excellent answer. I like that you used an MVP to get to that point with the design and work directly with the restaurants. Well done.
Could you just go back to your yearly financial page? I think I saw something I just want to ask a quick question on. No, it was the one with your, yeah, this is it. So just curious, your sales units are the same in year 3 and 4. Was there a specific reason for that?
So in terms of this industry, you don't see it by quarters because this is by year, but we've estimated that the sales actually usually come in either first quarter or the last quarter, just because that's when restaurants or hotels make their major decisions. And especially in Vancouver, summer sales is actually a huge thing. They open up their patios, and that's when their sales come in. So that's when they really want to bring in these equipments and kind of get ready for the season and being able to offer all the service they have. That's why you can't really see the difference. It seems like they're the same, but it's actually different depending on the quarter.
Okay, thanks.
Just one technical question. How does the actual sorting work inside the magic box?
Yeah. All right, so as we're still patent pending, I can't disclose the very specific nature of it, but it primarily works with weighing the different cutleries, and it's basically a crane that moves around as the cutlery is being washed, and it moves the cutlery to the right places on the platform.
Thank you.
Thank you.